My name is Buddy Scalera, and I'm coming to you live from New Jersey. I'm very excited. I discovered the organization. I registered, and now I'm a member. I'm very excited. I work in content strategy. I'm going to pull up my slides and show you what I have to share with you guys today. So let's do this. I'm going to ask the gratuitous question of, can you see my screen? I'm assuming yes. Good. Okay. So a little bit about me. I'm a visual content strategist, and today's presentation is about optimizing your visual content. And I hope you get something out of it today on a Friday. So you can find me here on Twitter and on Instagram. Some of you are live tweeting with me using the hashtag there on the bottom right corner, DMO Summit. Starting to see other people tweet and share some visual images. We'll be talking a little bit about social images as well. My background is content. I've been in content my whole career, studied journalism, was a journalist for a while, got into publishing and digital. But at some point early on, as the internet was emerging, I got into the digital side. It was cool. And then I did a nice 10 years in agency, and now I'm on the client side. It's not about where I work, but I really wanted you to understand that the breadth of this was all content. So I've touched many different types of content. But throughout this entire personal career journey, I am the geek. I'm the geek that you go to when you have a technical problem. I'm the guy that you call up and you're like, I don't understand this thing. So I'm always trying to stay on top of geeky things, but I am a geek's geek because by day I do web work and visual content strategy. By night, I write comic books. So these are some of the titles that I've written and worked on over the years, and it's a part of who I am. It's visual storytelling. I also teach. So as Jim noted, I don't necessarily do this circuit all the time. I'm usually alternating between marketing conferences and comic book conventions. This is one of my classes at New York Comic Con, very enthusiastic group. And on the left, these are screenshots of 4 of my books. I published 6 books on storytelling, how to create comic books, photography, character design, and things of that nature. But again, I work in marketing by day, but at night I still write comic books. And I realized that both jobs require similar skill sets. That is, all of us, tell visual stories on a deadline. Nothing has an open-ended deadline. We're not creating art for art's sake. The kind of art that we create for marketing is for commercial purposes. The same with comics, right? So I was thinking there are a lot of ways that comics and web design relate and are similar. First of all, both have hero images and calls to action. Can you identify the hero images and the calls to action? So we have calls to action that I've circled in blue that are call outs, that are clickable elements. For a comic book, it's really kind of simple, right? We have words and pictures working together on the page to get you to the action of turning the page at the bottom right corner, right? Traditional print call to action. Your eye tracks, you turn the page. But on a website, this is real user experience. There's lots of things that people can click. We want you to click all of them, or do we want you to click one of them? Well, it's hard to tell from this website because the prioritization changes day by day. This is a news website, but the same thing is happening on both of these pages. That is, we're using words and pictures together to get you to do a call to action. We're trying to stop your eye and get you to do something. And really, understanding how to master that part of the story is really what we want to talk about today and what you want to get better at to be a more effective web marketer. So we're going to go through 3 things today. And I like to keep it simple. There's only 3 things, and each of them only has 2 words each. So if you only remember 6 words from my entire presentation, I will consider it a success. That's my key performance indicator. Did you remember 6 words? So we're going to start with scalable strategy. Okay, so coming up through traditional print and then coming into digital, we often reference the funnel, right? And a funnel was this concept that it's easy to understand. You pour something in the top of the funnel, it narrows, and something comes out the bottom. But funnels were created during the time of push advertising, right? And push sales. And the words and the terminologies were completely different. So a user journey is like a funnel. It's just not. It's just not the same thing, right? Because we as consumers now select our journey, and our journey is not defined as a lead. I'm not a prospect. I don't consider myself a prospect. I might want to buy something, but I will follow my own intellectual logical journey. And the amazing thing about it is a sales funnel is about you. When people use sales funnel terms, you're making the website about you. And a user journey is about your customer, right? And this is important. Sales funnel is about selling, and a user journey is about telling. Content strategy is about telling people. And I'd much rather be telling somebody something that they want to know than trying to sell them something. It's a much better position. So how do we do that? Well, we come up with a user journey. And so my user journey is noted here below. It's pre-seeker, seeker, consider, active solution evangelist. I'll go through all of it. Now, you might have your own user journey. Other speakers today reference user journeys. Everybody's got a user journey. All user journeys, like diets, all diets work if you stick to it, right? But you can't mix them. So the most important thing is just be consistent. So if you work in an agency, you're probably going to use either your own user journey or your client's user journey. Now that I'm on the client side, this is the user journey we use for all brands. Each agency's user journey is correct, but in this case, we say align it to our steps: pre-seeker, seeker, consider, active solution evangelist. And that makes it easier later for us to compare different types of solutions that we provide to customers. You can compare oranges and orangutans if you have a way of doing, oops, sorry, that's my phone ringing. Sorry about that. So I'm going to take you through the user journey. I'm going to show you the visual way that user journeys manifest and the ways that you can provide visual imagery for the user journey. So I was looking to buy a car. I'm going to show you the demo of buying a car. You can start off, I need a vehicle, right? You're a pre-qualified need. If your car stalls out on the road, you get into a car accident, you're going to probably need a car. In this case, I was looking to upgrade my car because my daughter was going to drive. So I was looking for something that I wanted to drive. So I was a qualified lead. In a sales term, it's fine. But my keywords that I use, I knew that I wanted a crossover. It's not like I was like vehicle, transportation, choo-choo train, airplane, helicopter, car. Like I knew I wanted a crossover. I knew kind of car that would appeal to me and my family. So I started looking at, what do you note about those images? Great little thumbnails, right? You can actually select what you're looking for based on the thumbnails. Even though they're minorly different, there is still a difference. But now I get into the seeker phase. Now I know the names of products. I'm learning in my journey, right? And if I were not familiar with car companies, I might be learning the names of car companies, but most of us are familiar with the names of car companies. So we look and we say, what are the car companies? So I start looking up the different car companies that I'm familiar with that create crossovers. Some of them I clicked through, some of them I did an initial search. You can actually see that I triggered a search by the Chevy one, and I left that there so you can see I actually clicked through versus the other ones that I navigated to. So what do we notice about these three different images? What's the aesthetic difference? What's the message that we're communicating? Well, the one on the left is a Chevy, right? Very straightforward. Small car, medium-sized car, large car, right? Small, medium, large. Side profile, comparing the size, it's probably aligned to the cost of the car. Very, very Spartan, clean background, clean image, little drop shadow, that's it. One on the top right, white car, very Spartan, black background, very modern, right? Just very black and white, very simple, very minimalistic color in there. What we're selling here is a very Spartan, clean, modern looking vehicle. Now compare that to the bottom right, the Buick. What is the important thing about this? Now this is lifestyle, right? The Buick is selling lifestyle, right? Chevy selling transportation, the Nissan is selling technology, and the Buick is selling a lifestyle. Look at the driveway, the house. This is aspirational. If I am relating to these images and I'm looking for that aspirational lifestyle, Buick just spoke to me. All right. So now we know the seeker goes into the consider. And a consider, use the C for comparison, right? How do we compare these two different types of vehicles, right? So what are we selling in the top? Now, the Buick and the Chevy are both made by General Motors. The platform that they're using, Drupal, maybe, probably, WordPress, not likely, but possible. They're probably using a CMS though. And what they've done is they've created a hero image, they've oriented it differently, and then they've also created these bottom images that allow you to drill down. So they're optimizing these images. Now, what do we see here? The Buick is selling, look at how cool this is. Plush leather, but look at these tumble forward seats. This is a message that it's sending to you that this is a cool car, it's luxurious, and it's got the latest technology. What's the one on the bottom say? It's got 3 rows, very clear. You got a person driving, a mom driving, 2 kids, and a kid in the far back. Very utilitarian and straightforward, different brands that tell a different message with an image using words and pictures on the page to tell an effective story. Now, active solution. Now, active solution can be interpreted in 2 ways. One is I'm about to make a purchase. The other is I've already made a purchase. And I know that people like to use that funnel where a customer now becomes, the funnel goes in, the funnel goes back out. But in this case, I'm saying active solution. Somebody has decided to make the purchase of the Buick. In this case, these images tell me something about the service, right? Very clean, very professional. This is the kind of information that I want to know once I'm a Buick owner. This is reinforcement, right? We're not always in top of the funnel, pre-seeker, seeker. What we are here is reinforcing the value proposition of what Buick gives you, which is a clean experience, professionals with name brand quality parts, right? This is actually really important stuff. And optimizing to ensure that your existing customers are happy is a big part of the game. You can't just be in the acquisition mode constantly because your customer that buys that Buick can have it for 10 plus years. Last part, the evangelist. So people will call this an influencer, an evangelist strategy, whatever it is. The most valuable thing that you can get is a recommendation from somebody who has nothing to gain from recommending your product. In the case of a Buick, if I were to buy the Buick and I were to tell a friend that I really love that Buick, that is very valuable. If I were to say, I had a great experience at this dealership, I had a great experience with this sales rep, tell a friend is the most valuable thing because all of the marketing in the world, all the ad buys really does not come up or come close to a word of mouth, tell a friend recommendation. But we can also enable that a little bit, and we can enable that with visuals. So the happiest day of your car ownership will be the day that you buy that car and pick it up. Now, what do we notice about these 3 images? Okay, we notice happy young people picking up their car. What do we notice is missing? Well, the one thing that's missing is branding. Each of these dealerships has missed the opportunity for branding. Now, the small piece of branding that you might see on the left side, it says Tonkin.com, you got CarMax. Okay, they're doing a little bit better because they're reinforcing CarMax. And then the one on the right, you can't even see what it is. When I bought my first car, I bought a Saturn, brand new. And when I went to the dealership, at the end of the transaction, they brought my car out nice and shiny with the keys. They took a picture of me. I'm sorry I don't have the photo anymore. It's a long time ago. But the reality was they did it in front of the dealership. Now, think about the opportunity to photograph a happy new car owner, reinforcing either the brand of the car or the dealership or something else. These people are going to evangelize something that they spent money, time, energy being a pre-seeker, a seeker, a considerer, becoming an active customer. They've done all that hard work, and the missed opportunity is to own that to reinforce either the brand or the dealership. So the tweetable takeaway here is to create content that aligns to the user journeys of your customers. In the case of providing the right images, in the case of giving people shareable images and assets that allow them to be evangelists, whatever it is, use this moment, which will not come back. So that's our tweetable takeaway. Number 2, tech skills. This is our tech part of the show. So this is my tech toolbox. So as I mentioned, I'm a content creator, but I really like to get in under the hood. And one of the things that I always want to know about are the tools that people are using. So I'm opening up and showing you exactly the tools that I use every day when I'm building content or doing marketing. So I'll take it from the left. So creating, I pretty much use Adobe, Drupal and WordPress, depending on the needs of the client, be it internal or my consulting business. PowerPoint and Excel, great storytelling tools for either graphing or explaining an idea. I use Snagit and Camtasia. I was using Snagit during the Twitter portion while other people are tweeting. Snagit's a really useful tool for prototyping your website. You can take screenshots. Camtasia, I'll actually show you a video I edit with Camtasia, and Audition just for when I'm doing podcasts. Delivery, I put native. You see native under delivery and analyzing. I used to use Hootsuite and TweetDeck. I actually use the interface of Twitter a lot more these days. I just like it better. It just works for me. And AdWords, if you're running an ad campaign, that's what I use. And again, that's another native tool. For analytics, I just use Google Analytics, Jetpack, and then whatever's native, in Twitter's case, I just use Twitter Analytics. For reporting, everything Excel, everything in PowerPoint, but I also use OneNote. That's how our team communicates. We put everything in OneNote, we create a shared OneNote, and then we get it out there, and it's a great way to document. And then for collaboration, I don't know if you guys are using MS Teams. It is actually the most amazing new tool. I completely really replaced Basecamp. I don't even touch Basecamp anymore. A lot of people like to use Google Docs, Google Drive, Dropbox. Those are sort of the tools of sharing with either your clients or someone else, which is totally up to you. I don't use a lot of secondary tools anymore. I kind of like find a tool and I stick with it. But I did note the comic books, mostly Microsoft Word, but I have found that Scrivener is a great tool for controlling my outline, and then collaborating Slack and Jira. Just it depends on the team you're working with. But I'm using Jira more and more. It's kind of an amazing tool for project management, especially as we all start moving into this agile sprint terminologies rather. So your mileage will vary, depends on what tools you like to use, but I just felt like for this audience, you guys might want to know what I'm using. And then the tweetable takeaway. Build a creative toolbox and maximize it. Really learn your tools. If you keep jumping from tool to tool, hot thing to hot thing, and anything from SEM Rush to different types of BuzzSumo, whatever it is that you decide to use as your toolbox, get really good at it. Really understand the nuances of all of the tools that you use, because when there's a pressure situation, you'll be glad that you don't have 50 tools. You have 5 that you use really well. So we're at the last part, which is neat tricks. And this is my favorite section, because this is where we really get into the details. Like we just went high level, where we talked about scalability by having user journeys and driving people consistently through that journey and helping people to understand which content they need and guiding that user experience with visuals. Tech skills, which is to say get really well skilled with the tools that you have. And now we're going to have a couple of neat tricks. And the reason we want neat tricks is, you've spent some time today at #DMO Summit. And you want to be able to go back to the boss on Monday when J. Jonah Jameson says, "Parker, what did you learn?" And you say, "I learned 2 neat tricks. It was money and time well spent." And that's what the DMO Summit brings to us, time and money well spent. So we're going to teach 2 neat tricks with some examples of how you can get started. So neat trick number 1, open graph tags for social media sharing. Now, I noted those tweetable images in the Evangelist, but any part of your website is obviously shareable, either through search engines or through social networks. So this is an article that I had written for Content Marketing Institute that sort of deconstructed how the Jaws movie poster guides the eye across the page. So you can track across a Z pattern. So it's a fun little article, but what we wanted to create was a hero image that would be very tweetable, very shareable across social platforms. And then below that, we had about 12 images that would be part of the article. Now, what's you see here are the two images above the fold, right? So the two first images are the ones that most likely will be picked up by a social network. Facebook is famous about picking up the wrong image, or LinkedIn. Sometimes you can choose it. They've gotten better over the years, but they'll usually pick image number one. But if you didn't want image number one, you could note that. You don't even need this image to be the image. You can pick literally any image, even one that's not displaying on the page. And you do that with Open Graph tags. Now, what I've circled here is the image that you saw on the top header, all right? So we'll just go back real quick, take a good look at these two images, and now you look here, and what I've highlighted here is just a meta tag, right? So the meta property is meta property equals OG image, it's an image, and then the content is just the URL string. It just picked up the URL string. But if you look above it, you can see several other Open Graph tags. And these Open Graph tags are meant to make your website play nice with social networks. And this is a really powerful way to control how people will consume your content or share your content. All right, so Open Graph Protocol. Now, I can't tell because on my screen, the bottom is covered up by it says I'm sharing. But right now, you can go to opengraph.me, right, and look at all the different Open Graph tags. Now, the most common ones are the ones that I've highlighted here. Now, what's important about this is, have you ever tweeted something and it picked up the website handle? You want that, right? Like, that's really good, because then that notifies you if somebody organically tweets from the tweet this of your page, or they just put it into the Twitter handle, or they put it into LinkedIn, and it'll tag you, or it'll pick up a hashtag. And that's actually really exciting, because now you can control that, but you can also control the content. You can say what words you want it to say, and you can select an image. Now, the great thing about selecting the image is you don't have to use that header image. You can use an image that is slightly different or has a different aspect ratio, right? Because for the most part, they're going to share pretty efficiently. Most of the social networks have gotten really good about this, but you can control it a little bit. So how does that look? So on LinkedIn, I've taken that image, I've picked it up, and you can see that the image picks up the way I want it to pick up, but you can also see it picks up the text, the title text that we selected in the meta text, but we could have selected any text that we wanted. All right, you can see how this works in Twitter, right? This is how it looks. And what you see there in that first line, movie poster creates jaws-dropping visual, hashtag their visual storytelling lessons. We wrote that in the meta tags, right? And then we also wrote into the meta tags via CMI content. Now, I hand wrote getting ready for CM World. Now I've personalized, I've made it my own, but the image looks good. It stops the eye on the page, and it gets a higher click-through rate. How do we know? Well, you were able to check your Twitter analytics and see how that engagement is. Same thing over here, Facebook. Again, Facebook famously will pick the wrong image. And, sometimes you're just, in the old days, remember, you used to have to select it, but they're a little bit better now, but you can still do it. And incidentally, Facebook created the Open Graph protocol. So it's something that plays very nice with Facebook. So you want to run with that. It's your choice of how you want to show your images. You may be wondering if this works on CMSs. So, a CMS like Drupal, a CMS like WordPress, great CMSs, but can be a little tricky if you want to throw hand code in there. What I was showing you earlier was hand code. But all of the CMSs have plugins for Open Graph tags. You can use Yoast, you can use whatever you want to use. And it actually comes built into WordPress. All you have to do is enable it. So I wrote this little love letter to Goodreads. I love Goodreads. I'm an avid Goodreads user. So I wrote this little love letter to Goodreads, and it's like why Goodreads is becoming the social network for readers. I wanted to make sure that it picked up the right image. So after I've done the right tagging, I won't bore you with the tag again, you can actually do validators, which is actually a great way of doing it, because You don't have to just tweet it or put it on Facebook. If you've ever done that little trick where you're like, well, let me see how this looks on Facebook, and there's a nervous moment where you're like making sure that you don't accidentally put it out before it's supposed to go out, like you have an embargo. So Twitter will give it to you. Again, I can't tell if it's covered because I have this little thing over my screen, but you'll get the slides at the end. You can do it with LinkedIn. You get a little post inspector. It'll give you a whole bunch of information. And what's great about it here, if you look at the bottom part of it, is you get a title. It tells you what kind of type it is, where the image is, and what the description is, right? And what will pick up. And that's actually very powerful because you can go back there and fix it if it's important to you, and make sure that that looks good. And you don't have to use the same description for LinkedIn that you use for Facebook, that you use for Twitter. Like, you have a lot of control over this. You can do it for Facebook. Obviously, you want to do this for all the social networks where you are present, because this is really important for you. It's important for your users. So we're getting close to the end here, actually tracking pretty well on time. So I'll slow down a little bit and I'll take a drink. Neat trick number 2 of 2, image meta tags. So this is SEO for images. Now, what I'm about to show you is a video. I'm going to click play on the video. This video, you can see the URL at the bottom. The audio on it, unfortunately, will play. I'm going to take the audio off of it, and I'll just do a voiceover because during our test we noticed that it didn't sound so good coming through the speakers. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because at work, I don't have Photoshop. At home, I have Photoshop. But I want to optimize my images. And you want to optimize your images. You want to optimize your PDFs. You want to optimize your videos. All of these things are important meta information that you want to tell a search engine about, particularly when you saw the results in the early pre-seeker. They're going to pick images that they think the user wants to see. Now, in this particular case, I want Google to know what this image is, and I don't want it to be dependent exclusively on the HTML of the website, right? So I'm actually putting metadata into the image, and Google has acknowledged that, yeah, this metadata matters, right? So you want to put metadata on all of your assets, or at least all of your important assets. In this particular case, just so you have some awareness, is a comic book that I wrote called Apocalypse Boulevard. It's creator-owned. It's independent comic book. So I'm responsible for all of these image assets. So I'm going to show you how to do this without Photoshop. I'm going to kind of bring my mouse over here. I'm going to show you. Now, the trick is here, using the Windows 10 platform. It worked the same on Mac. You can see I do this on Camtasia. What we have here is just a plain old JPEG. And you can see I've pre-written some metadata. And you can see on the black background, this is the image. And it's a little bit better when I was narrating it on YouTube, but you can go back to it. And what I'm going to show you here is how to crack open this image and then embed this metadata in there to get increased value on your particular JPEGs. And this is really important if you're selling products, right? You want to make sure all your products are well tagged. So you're going to right mouse click. Again, I'm doing this on Windows 10. When you right mouse click, you're going to see the following. So let's open up. And you're going to see all the way at the bottom, you see properties. And now you'll see the name of the image that's on the desktop. You go into the details, okay? Now you can do this without Photoshop. It's sometimes easier to do with Photoshop, but if this is the only tool you have, you can also do this with a PDF. So now I've grabbed the subject. What is the subject? Okay, it's a comic book cover. I'm going to rate it 5. I don't know if that means anything, honestly. The tags, right? See, I'm separating them with a semicolon. That's what Google's told us to do. I'm telling people what this is about. So if you're into post-apocalyptic literature, here it is. I'm creating a cool comic book for you. And now I'm grabbing the description, right? It's a comic book published in 2017. Here are just some comments on that description. Now I have an authors section. So I've pre-written this. And then I copy and paste that. It's by me and Donnie and Paul. And I've added that. It's not a photo. I don't need the date taken, but I am going to add my copyright because I do want Google to know that it belongs to me. If anybody does a search on me or does a search on the images, and then I click apply, and then basically I click save, and that's it. You're pretty much done, and that's how you can tag it without using Photoshop. What you're doing today is exactly what you should be doing in your career. I mean, kudos to you for taking time on a Friday in August to immerse yourself in constant learning. And marketing and social and SEO are not static. They are ongoing, and they require constant learning. And this is the kind of constant learning that we all have to do. And that leads to my last thing. I did tell you about scalable strategy, user journeys. I did tell you about the tech tools that I use. And I did give you 2 neat tricks that you could bring back to J. Jonah Jameson. But there is one more thing. One more thing. So our one more thing is make content. I believe that all of us have the ability to do incredible things. But if we only do it during working hours because somebody gave us a job bag or a project number or a deadline, we'll only be as good as the request that is made. Every comic book I've made, every journalistic article that I've written, every bit of side hustle that I've done has actually made me better at my day job. And mine happens to be comics, and I've integrated it into my job at work. It was very difficult in the beginning, sort of coming out and saying, hey guys, I write comics, and it was a little weird, and not everybody thought it was the coolest thing in the world. But at the end of the day, making content helped me to draw the connection between words and pictures and storytelling and more effective ways of telling stories. Whatever you do, from crafts to sports, make content around it. Build a website, volunteer, do some charity work, whatever it is. The more you put your hands on the keyboard, the more effective you will be when you're called in an emergency to do something quick overnight. So by making content, you actually make yourself a much better marketer at your day job. So learn by doing, #make content, really get in under the hood. Don't be afraid to bring your passion project to work, because you'd be amazed at how many other people share that same passion, or just admire the fact that you were able to create a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel, and that will make you much better at whatever you do. I'm Buddy Scalera. Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I hope that I didn't lose the connection. I didn't hear anything. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick and see if there were any questions. So we're going to see what happens now.
Yeah, one question that came in for you, Buddy, from Holly. She says, cool trick on naming metadata. Do you recommend doing this in the way you just did before importing it to a site like WordPress to use?
Yeah, so Holly, I do that for my important images. So if I have a specific product to sell, like Apocalypse Boulevard or some Deadpool comics that I've done, I do create that meta tag and I upload it into WordPress with that meta tag. And then, of course, I use the WordPress meta tagging as well. So I should move the camera. I'm looking at the camera.
So close.
And I actually had a question for you as well, Buddy. It had to do with, it's kind of a dream that you got to play with comic book. I mean, we're in a Wayne Enterprises shirt here.
Yeah.
What's your dream content that you'd get to be asked to create at work? Like, what would be your dream to create?
I like working with people who have already become a customer of the product, right? Like, to me, it is that maintenance content that excites me most. Acquisition is part of getting people into the stream, becoming your customer, and converting, all very exciting. But I feel like, when you can build a relationship with somebody who will have something for a long time, that's the dream content for me, because then they get immersed. You don't have to say, like, this is a book, this is what it does. This is once people are owners of the car or owners of the product, to me, that's a lot more exciting, because you can elevate the language that you use. You're not using introductory or educational language. You're using reinforcing language.
The re-onboarding. I like it.
One of the things, too, that I've come across is, people, they continually think that, I have a product landing page, I have content. I think that's good enough, right?
Right.
And I think the wake up call for a lot of these people is basically that they need to understand that you have multiple steps in the process of selling someone, from exposure, from the initial, who are you, what do you do, to I'm going to buy this thing.
Wow.
And so the user journey is super important. But you also have to select the keywords along that path that fit with the end goal of them purchasing your products, right? So I've found that, like, and especially just recently too, I've had a couple clients that just came in and they were shocked by the user journey, and they were like, oh well, we created this page and so this is all we need to do. And it turns out that obviously that's not what they need to do. They need to create this entire pathway in order to capture these people as customers. So I think it's a really great presentation, first of all. So thank you for doing it today. I know that you were a last minute addition, so you've done very, very well. And I think as people start thinking about this, they're definitely going to think about how they're structuring their current content game. So thanks.
Thank you. And I think one note on what you said, Jim, was I think the with clients often come in and they want to get their message out, but there's no one message that travels across the entire user journey, right? There's a message at every step, and I think the key thing is helping those customers, the clients, to understand that it will take more than one message, and not one message resonates with each person, so you have to customize it. So I think that it's important to really break down that user journey before you get started making your content.
And one extra question actually just came in for you. So Jessica, thank you for the presentation. She wants to know, are you anti-stock images?
I am anti-stock images.
They're the best.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what your goal is. I'd rather see no image or some bad imagery than stock. It's just a personal preference, but I've found that when something looks like it's a cutout or it's stock, I feel like it sends a message that nothing to see here. And sometimes it's okay not to have an image. I mean, we grew up saying, oh, you have to have an anchor image on every page. And now I think, especially with mobile, maybe you don't need an image. Maybe it's okay to not have an image. The contact page, if you don't have the lady with the headset and the microphone on your contact page, they'll still know it's a contact page.
Yeah. No, I agree on that. It's hard though sometimes. I mean, we have our own summit, right? And so part of the issue is, how do you capture that perfect moment of everyone having fun in the winery with the correct lighting, everyone, you know what I mean? Like, that's really challenging, just from a production standpoint. And it's taken a long time for us to try to get some of that stuff. And we still use stock images. I mean, I'll be blatantly honest.
Just take pictures of me, Jim. That's it.
I mean, that's fine too. We can do that. I mean, we don't want arson on the site, so I mean,
arson was awesome. I got to tell you, I was last minute to this. I registered for your thing. I'm going to go into your message boards. This is a great community, and also, God, these presenters were great. Tough to follow, Mary.